Podcasts are a great medium to learn new things, yes or no? Thousands of high quality top podcasts are frequently produced that either inform or amuse their audiences, and they can all be listened to in practically any setting. Let me share 3 reasons why podcasts are beneficial to your life. Number 1, work is easier when you multitask. Yes, you heard that right. The best thing about listening to podcasts is that you can listen on the move. You can now be entertained or learn new things anytime and anywhere you desire. This hands-free, eyes-free kind of entertainment will make your daily commute and daily duties more enjoyable. I'm sure you don't like traveling in a metro or in a bus or in an auto and you're like, oh God, I have wasted my time. I take 2 hours to go from my home to my workplace and then workplace to my home. Oh God, there is no time for me to invest in my personal growth. Listening to music while folding laundry, cooking dinner, or doing the dishes, you have been doing it. But now let's replace that music with podcasts, with something more enriching, something more knowledgeable. This will make your chores seem much easier. Since the time I have started multitasking this way, I feel good at the end of the day. I feel enriched that I have spent my time wisely. The second reason why you should listen to podcasts is because experts will teach you about interesting topics. Feel blessed to be born in this era where you can access to the best of the best in the industry right in your mobile phone. You can listen to them just that one click. Podcasts are accessible. They provide a way for the average man to communicate with the masses without using mainstream media, which is one of the reasons podcasting is a wonderful educational tool. This means that professionals from a wide range of industries can simply share insider information with the general public. You may now learn directly from the competent people in the straightforward, effortless, and free session. Think about it. You don't have to depend on that local teacher who knows it all, who claims to know it all. Today you have access to the world-class leaders and educators and entrepreneurs and leaders, and you can absorb whatever comes your way rather than reading those complicated manuals or becoming weighed down with irrelevant information. Makes sense? The third reason why you should listen to a podcast is reducing your screen time. Yes, we have been complaining that, oh God, I have strained my eyes. There is so much of screen time, maybe while working on the system or while watching television or maybe on your mobile phone. Well, podcasts are fantastic because they provide a fascinating alternative to visual media. Podcasts, like films, don't require any reading and require minimal energy, but they don't produce the same visual strain or mind numbing. Research suggests that listening to podcasts stimulates the brain more than watching television. This is because rather than constantly feeding listeners with visual accompaniment, podcasts demand them to utilize their imagination. Whatever you listen to, you can imagine as per your own senses. So it's good for the sake of your eyes and also your health. What say? Now, by now, I'm sure that you are convinced why you should listen to podcasts. Rest. And now let me share with you 3 podcast recommendations. These are from my side, okay? Number 1 is the Tony Robbins podcast with Tony Robbins. Who doesn't know Tony Robbins? This podcast is an audio format of the teachings and philosophy of one of the most recognizable names in the self-help industry around the world. For me, this podcast is beyond a 5-star. Tony Robbins and his team explores a variety of topics like relationships, career, health, business, and they dig deeper in these topics. All the insights I get from this podcast have have assisted me so much in my life and helped me inch forward to become a better person every single day. I would love to share 2 lessons I personally have learned from Tony Robbins, which are number 1, taking massive action. Yes, taking massive action for me means getting to the gym, not letting my brain tell me that I can do this later, maybe tomorrow or next week, and to stop listening to whatever is holding me back. Have you ever heard that little voice in your head that's telling you to wait? I have learned this from Tony Robbins that if you keep pushing to tomorrow, you'll eventually run out of tomorrows. So take massive action now. Remember this. And the second learning which I got from Tony Robbins is the 2mm rule. This is a very simple rule. You just have to break down your goals into bite-sized pieces. Tony tells us about how our brain is a strange place. It's there to try to protect you. If it perceives something as too big or impossible, it's like scared and it wants to protect you for sure. It'll give you reasons not to do it because you will fail, you'll be embarrassed, you'll be feeling bad about yourself and blah, 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 blah. But if you break them down into more accomplishable bits, bite-sized actionable bits, it will seem more doable. Eventually, these will form into habits and then into, hooray! Routine, your rituals, and then you can do it on an autopilot mode, and it will feel a bit effortless. It will just take some time to get in that loop, but once you're in that loop, congratulations, my dear friend, you have arrived. Yes. The next one, the second podcast I would recommend you in this video is School of Greatness with Lewis Howes. The objective of the podcast is to ask the question that we sometimes find ourselves asking: what makes people great? Lewis Howes grew up in a small town in Ohio, dreaming of playing pro football with his dad. Suddenly, he got a call saying that his father, his greatest support, had met with an accident and was in coma. When he got back, Lewis' father wasn't the same man. When he went back to pro football, Lewis encountered a career-shattering injury. That was the end of his life. Or so he thought. After not doing much for 1.5 years, he started looking for mentors and coaches on LinkedIn. Lewis interviewed them and they made him into the man he is today. A lifestyle entrepreneur, an NYT best-selling author, a business coach, and a keynote speaker. In his podcast, he tries to find the answer to the question through thought-provoking conversations with guests on the show. He talks about entrepreneurship, about health, about mindset and relationships. 2 lessons I personally have learned from Lewis are, number 1 is to create a vision. Creating a vision takes time, but once created, it can help you transform your life. To create a vision, you may ask yourself questions like, you may write these questions or just listen to these questions very carefully. Number 1 is, what do I want to create in my life? What type of legacy do I want to leave? Where do I want to live in my lifetime? Where do I want to travel? What experiences do I want to have? Once you create your vision, it will be easy to make decisions, as anything you do will either move you closer or further from it. That's a beautiful learning which I got from Lewis. The second one is developing a winning mindset. So powerful. This is so powerful. A winning mindset. Lewis always talks about having an athlete's mindset. Just observe the athletes. They didn't get to the top of their sport by doing the minimum amount of work. Look at anyone. Maybe if you watch sports closely, recently we have some big names, be it Neeraj Chopra, be it Lakshya Sen, be it PV Sindhu. There are great names who are creating that buzz. And how is it possible? They're the first to practice, last to leave, and thinking about their goals 24/7. And in order to fulfill our goals, we even need to do this. Your goals should be top of mind all the time. Do it by writing your goals in a journal, following the visualization technique, or may constantly talk about your goals. All of this work will help you develop a winning mindset. And once you begin to cultivate this kind of mindset, you will instill a belief in yourself that is unwavering, that is like firm. If you believe you can accomplish your goals, then you will. Remember this. Lewis has beautifully talked about this. You must listen to his podcast. The third recommendation I have for you is Daily Mastery Podcast by Robin Sharma. In this podcast, you will receive the mental models, the daily routines, and productivity tactics that Robin Sharma has taught to the giants of industry, sports superstars, and elite performers to whom he has served as a private mentor for over 25 years. Robin Sharma, a name we are all familiar with. This podcast revolves around productivity, around leadership, around business, and around creating an impact. There are like two lessons I personally learned from Robin Sharma, which is talk less and do more. Words are powerful tools, but actions send a message that is louder and clear. Yes or no? We can talk a lot about things, but then your actions speak the loudest. Your smallest of actions is much better and more effective than your biggest of intentions. If your actions don't match your words and promises, people can eventually start to lose trust in you. Whether you are fulfilling a promise or trying to reach an ambitious goal, your actions, no matter how insignificant they are, add up to the bigger scheme of things and show your real attitude towards life. Remember this. The second learning which I got from Robin Sharma is that tough times pave way for better days. You must have heard of this, right? I remember back in my childhood, I used to get to hear this from my parents that these tough times will make you a better person tomorrow. And it has served me really well. It is important to see difficult circumstances as a turnaround platform for growth and betterment. Let's say you are applying for a new job or ending a relationship. It is exactly what you need to start a new chapter in your life. No matter how tough these decisions are, letting go of a negative situation can pave the way for introspection and make you a better person. Remember, tough times always pave the way for better days. Next thing that you need to do is pick up any of these podcasts and start listening. Don't complain that I don't have time. We have always talked about it. We have already talked about it that when you are doing some other household chores or you're traveling, listen to yourself. Listen to these podcasts, not to yourself. Yes, to yourself as well. And before I end, I would love to share one more bonus recommendation. And that recommendation is my podcast, that is Detox with Divas. How can I not mention my podcast? In this podcast, I share my thoughts to detoxify your life. In this podcast, I throw light on thought-provoking questions that surround us. In the podcast, I try to discover answers to questions related to life, to career, growth, productivity, and anything that crosses my mind. The podcast has already been downloaded by many people. And now, what are my learnings from this podcast? This time I leave it up to you. Let me know what are the learnings that you have gained through my podcast or through this video. Do listen to my podcast and share your learnings in the comment section below. I would love to go through your comments. Wishing you a lot of luck and success. Till then, stay awesome, stay productive.